Tonight, we're not just making a meal. We're performing human maintenance on a Templar Knight. Forget everything you know about dining. This is a logistical procedure designed to prevent a heavily armored man from collapsing. The goal is simple: keep the knight alive, upright, and capable of wearing an unreasonable amount of metal without passing out. Pleasure was not just absent from the menu, it was suspicious. In the world of the Templars, enjoyment was a gateway vice. It led to smiling, smiling led to questions, and questions were a short path to disobedience. The Templar was a hybrid creature, a warrior monk. This meant he took the least fun parts of monastic life, discipline, silence, and a deep mistrust of enjoyment, and welded them to the most exhausting parts of soldiering, the need for calories, strength, and the ability to march for days while pretending everything was fine. Their meals existed in a narrow emotional zone, filling, repetitive, and spiritually humbling. If a dish could be described as interesting, someone in the kitchen had already made a grave mistake. There was no browsing, no requests, no saying, "I'm not really feeling lentils today." What you received was what everyone received, chosen precisely because no one would get excited about it. Excitement was dangerous. It led to attachment. Attachment led to longing, and longing was a distraction from duty, God, and the primary goal of not dying violently. Meals were engineered to avoid indulgence. Spices existed just enough to remind you they could have used more. The dining hall was not a place for camaraderie. It was a room where you could hear bread being broken and souls being quietly reshaped. Meals were taken in near total silence, broken only by readings from Scripture or the order's rules. Conversation encouraged personality, and personality was the first step toward developing opinions. Eye contact was minimal. A lingering look suggested distraction, and distraction suggested temptation. The safest approach was to chew slowly, eyes down, thoughts politely directed toward discipline. If the Templar diet had a hero, it was bread. Not soft, fragrant bakery bread, but dense, dark, coarse bread made from barley or mixed grains. This was bread with ambition, bread that resisted being eaten. Chewing it was an activity, a daily jaw workout. When it became too hard to bite, it wasn't discarded, it was soaked in broth. Waste was a sin. Bread was present at every meal because it was filling, durable, emotionally neutral, and excellent at absorbing soups that tasted like boiled regret. Meat did appear, but without fanfare. It was a regulated substance, not a celebration. Typically boiled or stewed to soften tough cuts and eliminate any trace of indulgence, it arrived on specific days approved by the rules. Portions were controlled. You ate until you were no longer hungry enough to complain internally, not until you were full. Rank did not earn you more. A knight did not get a larger portion than a sergeant. Equality was enforced through identical disappointment. Then came the fasting days. Meat vanished, replaced by fish. This was not fresh ocean fare, but salted, dried, or smoked fish that had traveled vast distances and had plenty of time to reflect on its fate. By the time it reached the table, it was less a meal and more a lesson in obedience. You ate it not because you liked it, but because the rules said so. Fish days were spiritually humbling and economically efficient, a combination the Templars deeply appreciated. Portion control was policy, not a suggestion. A Templar did not help himself to seconds. Bowls were identical, ladled out with institutional precision. Eating too quickly left you staring at an empty bowl in silence. Eating too slowly meant the meal ended anyway. This taught a vital lesson. You take what you are given, you do not ask for more, and you move forward. Mild hunger was not a failure, it was a feature. It kept the mind sharp and the soul humble. Wine was permitted, but treated like medicine. It was diluted with water, enough to keep bacteria at bay, not enough to loosen tongues or encourage poor decision-making. Drunkenness was forbidden. A drunk Templar was not just embarrassing, he was a liability. The wine appeared, did its job of hydration, and disappeared, much like joy in a Templar's life. It was fuel, not an escape. In the end, feeding a Templar Knight was never about food. Food was merely the delivery system. The real meal was a constant serving of obedience, endurance, and the quiet acceptance that comfort was not part of the contract. Every bland bite, every silent chew was training. It created a man who expected little and endured much. A knight who could function without luxury, march without complaint, and fight on the stomach that was never full but never empty. The Templar table was the final drill ground, and when the knight rose from it, he was not satisfied, he was prepared.